All right, we have some breaking news here. Google's often viewed as having one of the widest moats in the market, a monopoly. The company's basically a monopoly. It controls like 95% of all search queries, right? That may be changing, and it may be changing at a faster rate than we would anticipate. We have some breaking news that Microsoft is using OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, to integrate that into Bing search. So they're using the power of AI, they're using this technology that they've been funding, and now they're integrating it in Bing, and they're going after Google's search. So we have the behemoth Google, and we have Microsoft attacking their core business. Not just going after cloud and not going after YouTube, now they're going after the holy grail, possibly the best business ever, which is the search business. So we're going to get into this article. I'm going to go over all of it. This is a pretty in-depth write-up, but I want to go over some highlighted portions here. And I think this is just fascinating. We really have, I think, a considerable challenge to Google, and I want to share my thoughts as we go through this. So like we see here, I did an episode on this a while back. You can go back into my previous videos, and one of them is ChatGPT, which is just like this. They have a picture of it here. You can type in something, and then it gives you a text-based response. So it's not the link response you get in a search engine. And this has been incredibly impressive. In fact, a lot of times, the results from this are far more impressive than a normal search. You get entire recipes, you get instructions, you can have it write plays, you can have it write YouTube video scripts, you can have it do all sorts of things, and it gives you these very detailed answers. One thing that it's particularly good at is writing code as well. Just writes a bunch of code. If you ask it to write a loop or a while loop or a function or a recursive function, whatever you want it to do, it'll just do it. And a lot of times it's correct. It's actually incredibly good at coding. So let's go ahead and jump into this. They go over all the details of it, and we'll go and break down what Microsoft's plans are with ChatGPT. Well, first of all, how is Microsoft affiliated or associated with ChatGPT? They paid the bills. They're the ones that really made it possible. Microsoft, as you know, has some extra money. They fund a lot of these projects, and they want to get a return on them. It says Microsoft could soon get a return on its $1 billion investment. This is a pretty sizable investment into a startup company, but it looks like they want to make the most out of it. Microsoft is preparing to launch a version of its Bing search engine that uses the artificial intelligence behind ChatGPT to answer some search queries rather than just showing a list of links. So we have a version of Bing, a version of it, and then they're going to have the ChatGPT kick in only for some queries. Right away, from my opinion, what I think they'll do is I think they'll have a confidence-based system where if they're confident and they'll have some confidence ranking algorithm, and this is just me completely, this would just be my impression. I think that what they'd do is they'd show the normal search if they weren't confident that ChatGPT could give a good answer, but if they had a high level of confidence that ChatGPT knows the correct answer, then they'll show the ChatGPT answer. That I think would make the most sense. And so over time, you could have some search queries answered with ChatGPT. Because again, ChatGPT isn't correct on everything. For those answers, you got to just give the normal links. But they say according to two people with direct knowledge of the plans. So these are insiders leaking information about Microsoft's upcoming plans. Microsoft hopes the new feature, which could launch before the end of March, so just a couple months, will help it outflank Google, its much bigger search rival. Sheesh, they're going for Google's core business. And I've worked in tech a little bit before. I worked for about 8 years as a programmer. And I'll say that most people I know, they use Google. It's just the go-to search engine. If Microsoft can change that and get all the programmers and everybody in tech to use Bing, I think that's a pretty big first step. If they have ChatGPT in there giving all these very good code answers as part of their normal search engine, I think that could sway a lot of people to break their attachment to Google and go over to Bing. From there, you could get a bigger and bigger, broader audience. But let's go ahead and read more about the details here. Now, Microsoft is very good at this. They have a lot of experience. It goes over the history and experience Microsoft has in doing this type of thing. The Microsoft OpenAI relationship has attracted outsized interest in the tech world specifically. This is something that I love to see, by the way. ChatGPT was something that I saw a lot of enthusiasm in the tech world that I haven't seen before. It was one of the most interesting and cool AI things that I've seen maybe the past 5 years. It was just incredibly fun to see something that that incredible, like a literal breakthrough in technology happen, that doesn't happen that often. And I think that it warrants this level of interest from the tech world and from everyone else. They say after the information reported in October that Microsoft was in advanced talks to make a second investment in the AI startup at the valuation of tens of billions of dollars. So this is worth a lot. As the information has reported, Microsoft essentially has been footing the startup's cloud bill as it trains machine learning code models on data across the internet to develop tools that help people generate text, computer code, and imagery in response to a few simple text prompts. So Microsoft is here, and their way of funding it is basically they have Azure, they have the big cloud hosting, and they're saying that you can use our data servers, which normally would cost you billions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to do this complex computation that comes with AI processing. And we're going to completely cover all the bills. And then, that's kind of the investment there. Otherwise, you couldn't make a startup that could do this much processing without significant amounts of capital. So a great investment for Microsoft. They say Microsoft already launched the paid service Copilot. That is a big one, and it's incredible. In June of 2022, to help software developers automatically generate code with the aid of OpenAI software. The Copilot tool has received favorable reviews from some prominent engineering leaders. Favorable reviews, I think, understates the power of Copilot. I've had different developers that have started learning coding, and they've got into web development, they're learning React, and then they hook up with Copilot. And then they start using it, and they notice that it starts typing out entire functions and entire things, and they ask me, is my job safe? Are these robots really going to just take over coding as a whole? Because of how powerful Copilot is. It has so much code that it can use to build so many different functions. It can automate a lot of the programming job. Not all of it, but it can automate a significant amount. The OpenAI software for Copilot and ChatGPT is based on a generative, pre-trained transformer, GPT, also known as the larger language model. A transformer which Google researchers pioneered years ago is a type of deep learning model that infers relationships among enormous amounts of data scraped from the internet. That is the expensive part. This is what startups cannot do without significant backing of big tech. So people that criticize big tech for not being innovative and just being these big washed up companies, they're the ones really pushing innovation. Big tech in many places are the ones that have the capital to invest enormous amounts of resources into these type of things to make significant advancements. So I think some of the most innovative companies are Microsoft, is Apple, is Google. They're the ones that have the capital and the R&D to make these big steps. But it scrapes tons of data from the internet. Deep learning is a branch of machine learning that has taken the business world by storm in the past decade. Companies use deep learning to automate everything from customer service replies to making predictions about products their customers might buy. So they've been working on this for a while, and finally it's time. It's imminent. Microsoft is going to be releasing this within the next couple of months, and that is leaving Google scrambling. Meanwhile, Google's executives have been scrambling to figure out how the company should respond to ChatGPT, which has captured the public's imagination, similar to how Apple's Siri voice search feature turned heads more than a decade ago. Google's AI research division has developed language models similar to ChatGPT. So of course Google has this tech. I don't have any doubts they're doing the exact same thing, but the problem is Google already has a really good, favorable business. So I'll go into that more later, but this is a problem for Google. They say, but the company has been vague about how it's putting its best transformer-based advance to work in its products. It recently announced search upgrades that make it easier for people to get more relevant results by typing fewer keywords. Okay, this is, just think about this. This is what Google announced. Search upgrades to make it easier for people to get more relevant results by typing fewer keywords. Google, that's boring. People don't want that. People want something cool. They want ChatGPT. I mean, if you really look at what excites people, ChatGPT is exciting. Getting these amazing AI terms and exact answers to everything, getting better keyword results, that is not interesting. Google's doing these little tiny baby steps, and Microsoft is over here trying to move to the next giant leap forward, right? One company's going so much faster than the other, and I really think this puts Google in an interesting situation. I think it's a difficult situation. Despite its AI prowess, Google has been cautious about releasing a fully fledged chatbot like ChatGPT. Such models, including ChatGPT, can be tricked into generating factually wrong answers as well as offensive content. The technology can also be misconstrued. Google last year fired one of its own engineers who was working on the cutting-edge language modeling called Lambda after he publicly claimed the AI was sentient, which is funny. It's like out of a AI novel or movie. But it's getting to that point where it seems that way. You can talk with ChatGPT and it feels like you're having a conversation with a human. Google and other researchers have said that there is no evidence to support his claims. Okay, I don't think it was sentient either, for the record. But I do think this puts Google in an interesting and difficult situation. If Microsoft has an amazing integrated ChatGPT where it gives you these real direct responses on top of providing you links and gives you the best of both worlds with a nice Bing search, I'd probably flip over and I may start using that for some search results. I'll be honest here. And I think a lot of people will if you're getting the best of both worlds and it's done in the correct way. But Microsoft really has to do this in the correct way because Google has such a strong foothold in this industry. And I think the reason that Google has been very reluctant to change much about their search engine is why do they have to? What they have right now is a high gross margin, incredibly powerful monopolistic business. And this is kind of like the innovator's dilemma. They can either disrupt their core business and hoping to improve it, or they can try to just keep it as is and hope that the moat doesn't get disrupted by other competitors like Microsoft. So they have that innovator's dilemma. That's a very interesting situation for Google to be in. And my guess, the way Google will respond is they're just going to see what Microsoft does and how it affects the company. And if what Microsoft does is working and stealing search market share, I think Google will just copy them and try to integrate the same thing into Google search. That's my guess of what's going to happen. But either way, this is a very interesting development into the core business of Google. And I'm very interested to see how this develops. So that's all for now. I'll continue to follow this as we have more updates in the future. See you in the next one.